Hey guys, Tony and Nick with the Sicilian brothers, and we're here today with Julian Garcia from RG Housing. It's going to be an awesome conversation about getting started in real estate and where he started and where he wound up or where he is now. Excited to show you guys this video.
Are you listening? Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school.
Watching the that multifamily rental increases, it's insane.
I saw a picture like last week. I think it was like Dallas in the early 2000s, late 1990s to today. I mean, it was like an aerial picture of American Airlines, like that area. It's crazy to see.
I feel like I saw that one. Yeah. Like, because when
the growth, you mean?
Yeah. When I first came to Dallas the very first time, there was nothing around American Airlines Center. Like, there was just nothing there, and then now
still parking lots and everything.
Yeah. Literally lots, though, not even garages, right? Then you started to have some garages pop up, and now you have like serious just towers everywhere. I thought by now, believe it or not, we would have flipped to Riverfront side where the jail is and actually developed there. But
first, before
just by now. I just feel like they would have hopped the highway, but they haven't hopped the highway yet. They're still squeezing shit into downtown. Like, they're still like,
I'll see a new building being built. I'm like, how do they even think to put it in such behind another building?
I don't think anybody's had nobody has the balls to be the first to go next to the jail. The person right there.
Yeah.
Once one goes, it's going to be like a flood, and then everybody else is going to go over there and populate it.
Well, I went down when you go down by Trinity Groves, and if you look everyone's always like looking at Trinity Groves and then down towards Sylvan, and no one's really looking along the Trinity River going into what would be considered like not Bishop Arts, but like North Oak Cliff, like Kessler Park.
Yeah,
along the river. I noticed the other day I was driving down there, and there's a ton of like townhouses and like stupid expensive stuff they put up along the Trinity River there. Everyone was waiting for it to happen on the north side of Trinity Groves, like where all those shack houses are. That hadn't happened there, but it happened on the south side. And you don't go down there. Like, why would you drive? The only reason why you would drive through to that neighborhood is to get to that neighborhood. Like, there's not a pass through. So I was driving by there the other day, and it just throws me for a loop to see the new construction popping up left and right.
Yeah, it's a lot of people coming in from different states want to be a Texan now.
Yeah, 1,100 people a day.
That's crazy.
I don't really know your history, right? So you're a wholesaler, started out, but you now are an investor too. You're buying and selling, right? So
yes, sir.
How'd you start out?
So I guess started out as far as like getting into wholesaling from the jump.
Yeah.
So how I got started was I was actually in school at the time, and this was in
college.
So I was a freshman in college. I attended Texas Tech for I think just one semester at that time. So that was I enrolled. I was actually on campus August 2016, and kind of what wanted me to find something to make money off of, was prior to being in college and high school, being a senior in high school. I was in a sales position, like a student sales job, selling kitchen cutlery. Have y'all heard of Vector Marketing? Cutco.
No.
Oh, Cutco.
Yeah. So, funny thing with that was I was actually cold called, and it was a random number, and I don't know. I usually don't pick up random numbers even to this day, and they're like, "Hey, Julian, you want to be a part of like a job?" They made it sound so sweet. I saw the knives, and I'm just like, shit. I was like, once he presented it to me, I was thinking, because it's like per appointment, you get like $15. I was like, oh, you know what? If I did 5 appointments, I get this much. But all of a sudden, I started selling $1,200, $2,000 sets, and I'm like, I'm not bad at sales, I feel like. So wanted to find something, just to kind of make me money while I was full-time in school. And at that time, I was pitching somebody a multi-level marketing scheme that I got into because I thought that'd be the way for me. But he was like, oh, no, man, I'm actually getting into real estate investing, like wholesaling. And I was like, Like that sounded, interesting to me.
He sold you.
Yeah, I know, right? So I did some research, and I remember I came across a webinar because, you'll look something up on Google, and next thing you know, you'll see it pop up on your feed.
They're always listening.
I know, right? And came across a webinar, and I remember it was like $200 and some change, and just really started diving in, and just decided to, give it a shot.
So you were doing wholesaling for how long before you're like, all right, let me take one down myself. Let me actually make that jump from wholesaling to investor.
So that was actually, I bought my first rental. Yeah. I bought my first rental property in October 2019, actually with a partner of mine. That was more of a learning experience. So we sold that this past July. And it was actually just this past February where I came across, I felt like was a smoking deal. It was a no-brainer, and kind of with how the market is today, I feel like it's about time, to rather than have that quick buck, 10, 15K, wholesale fee. I was like, okay, well, just with how the market's going, it's time to take some down myself. And it was actually, like I said, this past February, I bought my first flip that we're actually still rehabbing right now. We're about halfway through it, so we should be listed on it. Should be listing early June. I'd say awesome. By the first half of June.
How's the right time of the year to put it on?
So summer
works. Yeah,
summer is always popping.
How's the rehab going? Is it as what you were expecting process wise and expectations?
Going into it, I knew even before I got access to it, I would have to, there's a tenant issues, and it went from cash for keys, for them to vacate without going through the whole legality side of things, evicting them, to ending up having to evict them, and they moved out the day the constable came out, of course. So I kind of expected that. I was like, okay, well, I hope this doesn't happen. So that is one thing I expected, but I'm kind of learning that there's going to be change orders as far as,
repairs.
Like for instance, when we were fixing the foundation, it needed 28 piers. Next, the front patio completely collapsed because it wasn't rebarred. So now I'm like, well, now we have to do that. So I'm kind of learning, it's never going to be how I expect going into it.
Never.
Yeah. I see that now, but I am enjoying the process. I like experiencing it because I'm able to see what the buyers that I've sold deals to possibly go through.
Yeah.
So, and I think seeing both side of things, from selling a deal, no strings attached, I just get my quick, wholesale fee, I'm able to see the back end of things, and that, I feel like that just brings more knowledge to me wholesaling properties even today.
It does. It does, absolutely, because you going into it, that rehab, what it takes, what they can do with it. You know who to sell it to. You know what to buy it at. We talk all the time. Having creative exit strategies allows him to buy things that other people can't at prices that other people shouldn't. So it kind of gives you a leg up having that
Have
strategy.
you used that, kind of circling back to because you still wholesale, you still have your wholesale business. Mm-hmm. Have you used the current rehab process, like taking your team out there and showing your acquisitions guys and have you shown them the process? This way it helps make the team better, right? Because then they get to see it. Not that they're doing it with you, but you know what I mean? Hey, let's meet out here for lunch, or something like that.
Not yet. I actually plan on bringing them out there. We'll take a little field trip. So I plan on taking them out there more when it's kind of closer to being completed, just because it is a far drive. So, I just have to, I go out there once a week. So it's already a pain for me just to go out there once a week. But once it's closer to being finished, I'm going to take them out there and kind of show them the things that I did to get it up to how it's looking at that moment. But as far as what I'm doing today is giving them the knowledge that I'm experiencing with my flip. For instance, whenever we're putting together the price per square foot for a deal we may lock up to wholesale, they're like, I'll ask them about the foundation, and then they'll tell me one thing. I'm like, no. I thought my foundation wasn't bad. I paid I think $5,300 for 28 piers and two round beam replacements. So I'm giving them that game, so their numbers are just more on point.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and that helps the acquisitions guys calculate better, right? Buy a smidgen deeper so that you can sell better. It just overall that experience helps level the entire team up.
Oh yeah.
When you mention your team, do you have your acquisitions, your acquisition and dispo separate, or is it two different people?
Yeah,
What's
so
your team breakup?
Right. So it consists of just right now 2 different departments. We have our dispositions, or I have my dispositions department. That's just one dispo agent, Donovan. So he sells all our inventory, and I have 2 acquisition agents, Uriel and Mason, and their job is to solely contract properties.
So my question is, how, and not to get personal, but how's that handoff for you? How do you have that structured? How do you take 123 Main Street? All right, I just bought it. Turn around, hand it off to your dispo, so where they're able to market and sell it. So the reason why I ask this question is we find a lot of deals that we lock up, the best deals that we do, it's where there's miscommunication in that handover. So when we go and we walk it, we're like, how many square feet is this? Oh, it's a lot less, right? And there was something wrong about it that they didn't know, right? It was 3 lots, not 1. So you pick up on something, then you're able to get in there better.
Yeah, so I think a big key part of that is just having a good organized CRM system. So I use Podio. I'm not sure if y'all.
Yep.
Yeah. So I use Podio.
Do you use Podio with beast mode, or do you just use Podio?
I just use Podio, and the layout, or the app's layout that I have, I got from a friend, and I kind of tweaked it up myself because I have the automated global flow kind of going. But between that handoff, before we even acquire the contract, I always underwrite every deal we make an offer on, everything, because I want to make sure we get the deal at a good price. Now, there are times where I think it's a good price, we don't move it, so be it. There's on to the next one. So I underwrite all our data, and with that being said, not only our offer range, but the square footage, beds and baths, if it's a lot, dimensions, things like that. So that way, when we do that handoff, my disposition agent just sees that all in the profile, and then he can just put the marketing message together and blast it out to our buyers. So the dispo agent doesn't verify anything because I already did that prior to us even contracting it. So that clears up, that second guesses of, is this the correct square footage or things like that. So
you have somebody verifying all that info right now? Yeah, right now. That's somebody, but somebody's doing it, which is needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your so you're how many years in?
It'll be 3 years, in about 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, 3 years full time.
So from the time when you went solo to you leveled up, got your office or got your first guy, whatever that time period, what was that like? The stretch from, hey, I'm in college and I'm selling Cutco knives, to where you're at now, which I know it's 3 years, but you got an office, you're on social media, you have a pretty big presence. So what was that transition like for you?
From solopreneur to, I guess,
yeah.
It was a lot of growing pains, even investing money. Me being young, of course, especially in the first couple of deals where I was actually making, real estate money, I guess you put it to you that way. I didn't want to ever spend because I put a lot of work into those couple of deals, and I was like, well, damn, the last thing I want to do is put more money to my marketing when, obviously I always want to keep it, for myself. So it was kind of growing pains like that. But once I kind of realized that it truly takes money to make money, I just over time got out of that habit of kind of being frugal with my capital. And now, nowadays, I had to close on a lot myself because a buyer backed out. And it feels good that I don't even think about it. I just see it as, my capital it has to be put to use.
Yeah.
It's really no point if it's just kind of sitting there,
It's interesting because you're one of the few wholesalers that I have met that honors their word, right? So when I saw you posting that, the buyer backed out and you're closing on this lot, there's a lot of people that have the weasel clauses in their contract, right, to where they just walk. So you actually closed on it, and here I think you just said you put it on the market and, got a full price offer type thing, right? Mm-hmm. So you took that risk, and it's going to pay off. And sometimes you'll take that risk and it might not pay off, but it seems like you're making the right decisions, right? The right Like it's a good balance of
to me, that's the first sign that you leveled up as a wholesaler, right? Like going from I want to start wholesaling, I want to get into real estate. I see everybody making real estate money. To that's you can do that all day long, but when you make a decision, you're gonna man up and you're gonna close on a deal. That's when you leveled up. Right there, you're like, all right, well, let me do something with it. I'm committed to it. Let's take it to the next step. I think that right there is the level up.
I agree.
What was how long did it take you to go from solopreneur to?
Give me your hand. Will you stop hitting the table? You keep shaking the mic. I'm getting yelled at over here.
He's not saying anything.
He is.
I'm typing in both
Yeah.
ears.
I don't know how to reach over and grab your hand to stop you from banging it, but I need to do that.
I was gonna pull an office.
Yeah, I know.
I was gonna do an office reference.
I was trying to think of a way to do it funny, and there's no way.
No.
So I need to tell you to stop hitting.
So how long did it take you to go from solopreneur to hiring your first person? And who was your first hire?
So let's see, because when I first got into the business ever, I was 19, and that was in 2017 where I dropped out of school, went back to school. So when I say I've been 3 years full time, that was after the fact. I quit and then got back into the business. So from 2018, June 2018 up until honestly beginning of January 2020, I was being a solopreneur. So I guess it took about a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And my first hire was actually a family friend of mine who I've known since I was, in elementary school. And he was my first acquisitions agent, and it was just us two cranking it out in the office from January, of 2020 up until, August that same year. And that's how, really got into it.
I'm going to back up because you threw a monkey in the wrench. That. Anyway.
Monkey in the wrench?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Where you said you quit and then you got back in. It's a huge thing for the new investor.
Usually when they quit, they quit.
Well, and also, there's another thing that you said, which is that it takes money to make money in this business, right? And a lot of people preach and educate that, you could do this with no money. And yeah, you can, but to a very small extent and degree. And I'm like, I don't ever tell people that you can do this with no money. You absolutely have to have money to do this business. So
I think
what made you quit?
Oh, what made me quit? So when I first left school, early February 2017, I had done my first deal 2 months after that, which is a win. I think, being 19, baby face, no facial hair, none of that. And that came from a for sale by owner, just driving for dollars. And what made me quit was honestly I was kind of discouraged from all the work and sweat equity I put into getting that deal to make $1,000. And I did see it as a win because I did it my first A to Z transaction, locked it up, held a showing, sold it, did the transactions to get it to the finish line. But I just wasn't the risk factor that I was in at that moment from transitioning, doing school my whole life and still technically at that time should still be in school to get into a business where I thought, I was always thinking my first check, I want to make 5 at least, things like that. To only making 1,000, that was a little discouraging. Just because, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to get my next deal? I don't have any.
Well, and that's one thing that I say to people all the time. I'm like, all right, so even if you're new, you're going to drive for dollars. Well, that takes gas money. That takes the postcard money. Even if you're doing handwritten paper, taping them to doors, that's all right. There's an expense that even if you find it or laying around, right, there's an expense to doing this business,
right?
And I think a lot of people are fooled into thinking that there is no expense, but there is.
I just think when you hear that, you don't need any money, no money, no credit needed, things like that. I agree to an extent. But it's not gonna. It might not be a direct expense as far as I'm gonna put money into buying a list, but it's gonna take money as far as gas money, time.
Yeah.
I think time's very valuable.
Drinks at a networking event, or entry to a networking event,
Yep.
or whatever. Like, I mean,
People always come to me and they're always like, "Oh, I want to get into wholesale. I want to get into real estate." The first step is always wholesaling. I want to get into wholesaling. I want to get. All right, well, go do it, and then come back to me and talk. And what I mean by that is, it's so easy to say, "Oh, I can do this. I just need gas money. I'm just going to go driving for dollars. I'm going to go door knocking and hang flyers." These are all low budget things, right? But they take time. They take commitment.
Yes.
Getting up and going and driving for a month straight, not getting a deal, that breaks your soul down, right?
It does.
So after you get your first deal and lock up, then come talk to me.
Yeah.
Meaning, because everybody wants to be a tire kicker, right? Everybody wants to get in it, but it takes a certain mentality to be a wholesaler.
Truly.
You can be, you don't even have to be invested in real estate to be a real estate investor, right? There's doctors out in California that are buying places in Texas because they have extra cash flow. They can buy it from online, put 20% down, and put their money to work. To be a wholesaler, you need that drive. It takes a certain person to go out there and get the deal and find them. Any investor can buy from a wholesaler,
Right.
you know?
That's true.
But no, to be a wholesaler, it takes a different mentality. So
True.
those people that want to get into it, good, go do it. Let's go. It's easy. Just takes a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of you, a lot of character.
Exactly, and exactly what you said, Nick. It's in it. Those are low cost, I guess, marketing tactics, and I see it as when people say no money needed, no, you don't have to have good credit, whatever. I just see it as you have to be willing to put a lot more sweat equity in. So that's driving for dollars, door knocking, door hangers, and that's kind of how I would try and get some deals. Like I remember 2018, me and a friend was driving my car, and I had my laptop, and we were driving for dollars, and I did not stop until I got 1,000 properties. And I mean 1,000 properties driving for dollars.
It's just numbers though, but that's what it takes.
Yeah, and I didn't get a deal from that. I did not get a deal from that.
It's
you still have that list.
I think I do actually. Yeah.
Keep that in your. Just keep those going out in mailers. Eventually, one will come through it, and you'll buy them.
I've never done direct mail though.
Oh man, we have to have a whole other conversation.
It's just
about
another
that.
numbers game, honestly. Though, when it comes down to it, how many doors do you have to knock on before you lock up a deal? How many deals do I have to send mailers to before I lock up a deal? It's just a different numbers game, conversion ratio. But like you said, you have to have the commitment to take it the long haul. If you want to drop out of college and you want to make this a career, you better be ready to make this career. Fight, blood, sweat, and tears.
Truly.
Yeah.
That's your decision. Same thing. If you want to go to college, don't half-ass it. You're going to go to college. If that's your career, if you want to go and be an IT specialist, you're going to go and bust your ass until you are the best.
What's
If you don't have that drive, you're going to be settling for middle of the road the whole way, which is fine. But don't try to be something you're not.
What's that thing that we say at InvestMark where it's like you can't have not the good, fast, and cheap
my
one.
triangles.
Yeah,
So it's the investor, right? So you have time, money, and experience, right? You can't have all three. You can, if you're a seasoned investor, you should have experience and you should have money. But you have no time, so you outsource the time, right? You find people that have time to go door knock and do the driving for dollars thing.
Make the phone
Starting
calls,
out,
whatever.
you have no experience, you have no money. So what do you have? You have time. You have a lot of it. So you leverage what you don't have. You leverage what you have to get what you don't have, right? You JV with somebody with experience. You go out there and you talk on Facebook. You find the knowledge, the experience of it. Go source money, right?
Learn.
Yeah, you learn.
Yeah, it's interesting though. That's what we preach. You can't have good, fast, and cheap, and you have.
I got a triangle for everything.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's interesting to see you're someone that I look up to in the regard of like you took it. You're young. You started young. I started relatively young. Not as young as you.
How old were you at the time?
I was technically
25?
No. So if you rewind 17 years minus 40, someone do the math.
Yeah, you're 23.
18.
No. I was 20. I've been doing it for 17.
It's 33.
There you go.
23.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're my age.
23. I was your age.
When you got started.
When I
Okay.
started, yeah. So.
Gotcha.
So looking back, so now that you've had all this experience, now you're actually into flipping. You got the other side of the deal. Your first deal, looking back on it now, you only made $1,000. Was that your fault because you bought it? You didn't buy it right? What happened there, right? So if you went back, would you still do that same deal? How would you change that deal?
How I would change that deal is really the whole process from acquiring it to selling it. Today we do all our deals virtually, so we'll never meet a seller in person to get a contract signed. We'll always do it through DocuSign. So having a quicker process, I think, would have gotten the deal closed a lot sooner. But on top of that too, I think I just locked it up at too high of a price because I sold it to an end buyer who ended up selling it to their end buyers, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And I just felt like maybe they kind of saw I was a newbie.
Yeah.
Maybe they can tell it was my first deal. So I remember I was trying to get them to budge up, but they're like, "No, man, I can't. I'm sorry."
So now you know how to play that on your side. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So going back to it, you might not have bought it. You might not have paid too much for it, right? It just might have been your disposition. You sold it to the wrong person. You could have found an end buyer and made more money.
Right. And I think if having your first deal, it's not going to be the way your 20th deal will be. You're going to go through things, and I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, I could have handled that a lot easier. But I think it was my lack of resources. I didn't have a big buyers list. I didn't know y'all. Who knows? It was a nice 3-2 in Carrollton.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think y'all would have bought
Sight
that.
unseen.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've never gotten a deal in Carrollton since that first one. And that was in a neighborhood I used to walk around, with my friends in. So it was pretty cool. Like my first ever deal, just neighborhood I used to roam around.
Yeah,
in.
there's a lot of houses I wish I still owned right now. Like there's a lot that I bought, I rehabbed and sold, and I'm like, oh man, I drive these neighborhoods and I'm like, oh, I own that one. I've owned that one. I've done that one. Oh, that's my remodel from 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I'm like, oh,
That's pretty cool.
It hasn't changed. It's interesting. So it's but it definitely gives you. I remember my first deal. I'll never forget it. There's probably a photo of me out there, like after I cashed the check. I know the photo and I know where I was when
Your first deal?
took the photo from my first deal. Yeah, and it was definitely like, for me, that was like gasoline on the fire. You handed me a wad of cash. It was $5,000 cash, and I was like, and it was just, I just stared at the cash and was like, oh man, I'm going.
You quit Bank of America after that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's
And-
the same
and
type
so
of
I
thing.
just
It
was
a
like, that's it.
light bulb.
And I went full speed ahead and never looked back. I've been at points in my career where I've thought about something else. I'm definitely a shiny object syndrome person where I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. Let's go do that. Hence the YouTube channel. But no, so I'm always interested in like, what can I do next? Like, well, I'm bored with this. Let me do another one. Or
I'm the
something
same
like
way.
that. Houses are a weird addiction because I'm like, we bought 6 3 weeks ago now, and I was joking around with Carlos yesterday. He's like, yo, it's been like a month since we bought houses, and so yesterday alone I was like, oh, maybe, like I thought about your Terrell deal. Like I literally was like, oh, let me just go spend some money. It's weird to go from day one to where I am, but it's been a journey. I think the not quitting thing, like I wanted to talk about that because it's so easy. It's so easy to just get beat down. It took you 2 months. Well, what if it took you 6? Would you have kept going? Like, it's so easy for people to just stop, or the need for resources to pay bills is there for everyone, and that forces you to like, oh, let me go get a real job.
It takes a certain commitment. It takes a certain investment. Everybody that's in real estate has to be a little crazy. We always say that, right? You need to be a certain type of people that are just gonna go succeed no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. Even in my down times, I know tomorrow's gonna be better. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's not that I love winning. I hate losing. Right. I have that drive. It just takes that commitment.
True. And I think sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I think a big difference between the first time I got started, 2017, to when I got back up and running after a full year in school in 2018, summer of 2018, was 2017. I wasn't committed. A big reason why I left school was because I was intrigued in, wholesaling real estate, and I felt like I could do something for it, on it. But on top of that too, I was going through some things personally at school that made me not want to be on campus. So it was kind of like those mixed emotions. I was like, man, I gotta get out of here. I remember having a conversation with my dad because my dad, he was scratching his head. He wasn't talking down on what I wanted to do, but he was scratching his head, of course, because my family, I have older brother, younger sister. Brother didn't graduate, so I'm sure my mom and dad expected me to graduate. When that didn't happen, they're like, damn.
What are we doing wrong?
Yeah, but so, with that happening, I just kind of remember leaving school because not solely because I was dedicated, like I wanted to do this. It was because, like I said, I was kind of going through some things, and I felt like I just needed to maybe try my own thing.
You wanted to change.
Yeah, I just wanted to change. And then going back to school, it truly showed me what I didn't want. And honestly, I was always pondering about, I wonder what, if I never quit, like if I would have continued to do real estate, I wonder how it would be today. And I just told myself, if I'm going to do this a second time, I'm not going to quit, because I don't want to spoil the industry. I don't want to spoil the possibility of what could happen. And that's a big reason why I kept going, because I didn't want to be like, okay, this isn't working again, go back to school, graduate, and then I'm thinking about real estate once again, because that's going to leave a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, and the what is that? The definition of crazy is like doing something over and over again and not changing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're new to real estate and you're new to wholesaling, whatever, if it's not working, or if a marketing channel isn't working,
what's not working? Why? Yeah.
Tweak it. Don't just give up, right?
Yeah, don't jump the ship. You got to figure it out.
It's so easy. We're trained from a very young age to learned behavior of just going to school. You'll go to college and then you'll get a job. And for me, that's never been. Hell, I didn't even go to elementary school. Like, I just wasn't a person that went to school. I tried. Similar situation where I started in college and got out and stuff like that. So,
did you graduate college?
No.
Where'd you attend for the time being?
I went to culinary school in New York for 1 year.
I remember you told me that.
And
broke your jaw.
There's an interesting thing that we'll do. I find a lot of successful real estate people that I network with, they'll have something. They're like, oh man, I didn't finish college, or in my situation, I didn't finish college. I broke my jaw, blah blah blah. My life happened, right? Mm-hmm. I will have my moments where I look back and I'm like, what would have happened if I didn't break my jaw? What would have happened if I would have actually graduated culinary school? Where would my life have gone? And you wind up being the creativity part of your brain goes into that dream world of where would I be, right?
You'd be a sous chef in the Upper East Side with tattoos, angry and smoking all the time.
I don't think I would have had tattoos, but the rest of it's probably very, very possible. Yeah.
The thing that gets people into what's lucrative about real estate, right? You're talking to people that are going to college, starting out, right? And what's lucrative about it is being their own boss. Oh, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to work for the man. You can make real estate money. Then they start into it, and that's the wake-up call. That's
really
so.
Well, you started. I think to elaborate on where I might have just been going was everyone. I remember when I first started, it was the freedom of hours thing, where it's like I could sleep late. Yeah. I can
That's what I meant by not being
right.
accountable by the man.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have your professor. You don't have a boss to answer to.
Mm-hmm. And people used to say to me all the time, like, oh, man, if you wouldn't survive if you had a real job. And I'm like, yo, I do have a real job. I might not work for, Bob Smith at the office, but I have a job, It's just how I chose to live my life and run my career, per se. And how I did it then is definitely not how I do it now, right? So I've evolved, which you probably have evolved,
you have
right?
to.
There was a meme, and I don't know who the guy was, but he basically said, I used to I used to think that staying up late was like the best life until I realized that going to bed early made like the best part of the day was waking up early. Like that's the real baller status.
It wasn't until my 30s that I realized that it was more fun to wake up not hungover than to get drunk. Like, that was my realization. I'm like, I enjoy being sober. I enjoy not waking up with a hangover. I can go out, we have fun still, but I'm not changed. And for me to say that, if anybody at home knows me, I'm the one that used to run into walls and get drunk and party, and it's a different. You have to level up everything mentally.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, so you started wholesaling, you're doing flips now. Mm-hmm. What's your next? Like, what's your goal? Where do you see, like, not see yourself in 5 years, but what's your next level up that you want?
I want to start earning cash flow, whether that be through rental properties. I do want to own a handful of rentals. I just have to wait till it's in the area I want. Like, I can't see myself having a rental in Fort Worth just because the drive. But
you say that, but then
when it's a no-brainer,
10 years from now, you're like, man, I wish I held that one. I talked to everybody says, I wish I held that one. I wish. I don't know that many people that said, man, I wish I sold this rental. There are those, don't get me wrong. There was those headaches, but they are far more, I wish I held them, because no matter what, dirt, they're not making it anymore. It's going to appreciate.
Yep.
Yeah, you might take a dip, and Dallas you're kind of safe in, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there is something to be said about location of them, right? We're hopping back into the rental game. We're using the cost of good leveraging right now. The interest rates are so low; they're not going to be this low ever again. Yada yada yada, and so we're getting back into it. And but I find myself being incredibly picky about. Okay, I want a 3-2 brick, or I want this specific asset. I might find one where I'm like, all right, I just bought it so cheap it makes sense, right? I agree with you. I don't know that I will actually hold any in Fort Worth because we live in Dallas, and I'm not.
It's a headache.
It is. It's to get to the other side of Fort Worth right now. It's an hour, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's just an hour. If I ever had to go out there and fix something, like, not that would ever happen. I don't go out to any house and fix anything, but my crews are all in Dallas for the most part. Even though we do some Fort Worth flips, they're my Dallas guys going to Fort Worth. So,
gotcha. So
I would be selective on where.
Aside from location, what makes you pick like a specific bed and bath for a rental?
I think one of the interesting things about like the Dallas market is there is a really big mix of like bed bath count. If you go, I don't have to be right in this answer because it's kind of proven for me. If you go to any apartment complex, look at their bed bath count structure. There's very few 3 bedrooms. There are a little bit more 2 bedrooms, and then they're all like slammed with 1 bedrooms, right?
That's crazy.
And so I think on the flip side, on houses, you would want the reverse of that. You would want more more 3 bedrooms, a few 2 bedrooms, and I bought a 1-1 from you. Like, it was the first 1-1 I've ever bought in my life, and I bought it from you, right? And like, I'm one of the only people that I know that could have did that specific house. I wouldn't have held that house because the niche tenant that would have wanted that house is very, very, very narrow.
We'll also think about it long term. That's not a family. That's not somebody that I want living in my properties. Nothing to talk bad about them. It's just I would rather a family in my rentals, right?
Well,
somebody that are going to take care of it, ideally, right?
And,
also, cash flow wise, if I'm holding something, if it's a $200,000 house in 217 or something, I want it to cash flow. I want it to, and if it's a 1-1, it's
yeah. I think your cost per square foot, like when you're buying a rental, like you have to do obviously the cash flow math, but on a 1 or a 2 bedroom house, you are most likely limited to either a single parent type of situation or a single person or 2 single people. And in my history of doing rentals, what that does is that narrows my income pool. Meaning, if I only have 1 adult in the house that's working, then that means if that person loses their job, the chances of me collecting rent when that person goes out of work is basically zero, right? Whereas if I rent to a double income family or occupants, whatever, if there's two people earning money, if one gets laid off, then at least they have the other person's income, right? And to hold them over until the other person goes back to work or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So as a rental portfolio manager, whatever, you're thinking of the demographics of the financial stability of the people that you're giving your asset to, right? And so single bedroom and 2-bedroom units limit that ability for those people to pay you, right? Which increases your risk. And I think if you're going to hold a portfolio, you need to mitigate your risk.
Nice. I never looked at it that way, so I appreciate that tip. Because I always thought it would just really matter the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it is, right? But that's part of it too, right?
Just a piece of it.
You're keeping your occupancy rate high, right? So where you have less turnover, right? Like those things all matter. No carpets, because carpets are an expense, and you just have to turn them and replace them with, each time you have a tenant move or something like that. Like there's the science behind the logic of how you fix up the house, and then what asset you hold is, there's something to be said about those
people
things.
always like, I want to hold this, it's going to make a great rental. Once they start running numbers on them, they don't. Taxes, people come to, hey, Plano, I got a great rental in Plano. No, you don't. Your taxes are going to be like $12,000. It's not going to cash flow. Another, talking about bed bath count though, is where I was going with it was, I've see them also where they're 5 beds, right? And now you just have 12, 15 people living in this rental. They're crammed in like sardines when we go to do the appraisal, and it's just so much wear and tear on your asset. We always talk about it, your HVAC, right? The HVACs get torn up by renters because they never replace the filters. So you figure every 5 years you got to go in there, you got to do a new HVAC or a new air handler or something. If you have a bigger load on the system, it's just more wear and tear, right? More holes in the wall, more writing, more piss on the floors, just everything. So turnover rate, after you get that tenant out after a year, you're gonna have to go in there and drop money to redo it to get the next tenant in there. So
I think people forget the vacancy, like the vacancy rate. Everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna get this for rent. But how many times over the next 24 months is it going to be vacant, and how much are you going to have to invest in those downtimes to bring it back up to get it re-rented? And so it's easy to see the shiny rental potential future wealth thing, but then like your first flip, it's the same exact thing, right? Like you weren't expecting the front porch to fall apart. Right. Well, on your first rental, you might not expect the sewer line to collapse under the house, and then all of a sudden you got a $15,000, plumbing to replumb underneath the house or for the slab, right? Because you don't want to tear up the house you just remodeled. You got a tunnel, right? So it's $250 a linear foot to tunnel. I only know this because it just happened to us on Fort Worth, so these numbers are fresh in my brain. But it's stuff like that that's unknown. But looking back, there's a lot of houses I wish I would have owned or held on to.
And I think. So I think a good goal from where I'm at today is, after I experience my first flip A to Z, get it sold, start buying them more consistently and keeping my GC always occupied with my property, so that way we have that relationship. I have a go-to, GC who I don't have to worry about calling, oh, I'm too busy working on these other properties. But on top of that too, have a handful of rentals, but I want to, and you inspire me on this, Tony, is owner finance. I want to start doing a lot of notes, because everything, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but everything we just talked about, I feel like is avoided through when you do notes, because you're technically the bank, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that is, yes. So you are essentially getting the cash flow, maybe a little bit less, whatever the numbers are, but you're getting the cash flow without the headaches. The downside is you're also not getting the appreciation, right? Because you're setting the sales price at today's market. Well, if you're doing a 30-year mortgage, some people look at it and they're like, oh, but if I'm doing a 30-year mortgage, I might as well just rent it for 30 years, and then it'll be worth $1 million in 30 years, and it's like and then the taxes are different, right? So I would say that diversity in your portfolio is definitely wise, right? So there's going to be those houses that would make more sense as an owner finance, right? As a seller finance that you can note and cash flow on that way, and then you don't have the headaches. And then those better, you're kind of in the perfect position to peel off some of those wholesale deals, right? Pay your acquisitions guys and your dispo guys a fee for doing it, right? And then you sit there and you put that asset in your portfolio or as a note. But those are two different beasts, but definitely a way to do it for sure. Just pros and cons to each, right?
Yeah, always.
To wrap this up, and I just want to go back to Fort Worth. You said you didn't want to hold that one because it's all the way out in Fort Worth, right? The driving stuff. I always look at investing like same thing. I wish I held that one. Just putting $25 into a Roth builds over time. Same type of thing, right? If you saw yourself in 5 years, 6 years, and you had all of a sudden 10 other rentals out in Fort Worth because you built a portfolio, wouldn't you say, oh, man, I wish I held that one?
Yes.
So don't.
I know the house that you're flipping, and
I'm not saying to hold it, but I'm just saying don't cross it out just because of that drive.
Yeah.
Don't let that be your only stopping one, even if it is your first. Just make that drive, make that commitment. You're gonna make it when you have a tenant in there. How often are you really gonna make that drive?
Right.
You're not going to be making it. If they call you, you're going to be sending somebody for plumbing or whatever. So don't let that drive just be the deciding factor on it.
No, I agree. And I kind of said that with my flip. I was like, man, I wanted to have my first flip in Mesquite and Garland, just local to where I'm at. But when it really presents itself and I see it as, okay, it's a no-brainer to flip it or to hold it, I probably will. I just say that just ideally because I want it in Dallas, but hey, wherever the deal opportunity presents itself.
Hey, I got one in Waxahachie for you.
I bet that's a deal. Smoking deal.
Yeah, I think regardless of the location, the numbers should always rule.
They have to.
At the end of the day, the numbers rule. If you're talking about rentals, right? The numbers dictate what we do and don't do.
Yeah, and it's funny because I say that as far as the properties I buy, but we wholesale probably within an hour and a half of DFW. We've done 5 or 6 deals in this one specific neighborhood in Cleburne alone called The Retreat. Never been there. Never been to Cleburne.
Me neither. I only know where it is because I look it on the map.
Yep. We've done 3 or 4 deals in Toole, Texas. Didn't even hear about it until I started getting leads. So yeah, the one thing I love about this business is, you can choose to be virtual if you want.
Yeah.
So that's something I take.
And that's something alien to us, and we're going to have to get you back in so I can pick your brain on that, because I don't know how we would be able to do virtual. I know we can. I physically can't picture it. So I want to pick your brain on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
That whole, we've had that conversation where it's like, your business model is so foreign to me, but I have so much respect for it. It wasn't the way I was trained. It wasn't how I was taught to do it. I've seen, even though I buy houses sight unseen, I have walked, or someone on my side. I'm trying to clarify. We've walked every single house we've actually funded, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though I walked the Waxahachie house the day before funding, I at least saw it the day before we funded it. But I take risks. They're pretty calculated. But I don't know the virtual thing. I can't wrap my brain around it, but it works. And I respect your operation just because you're not out there doing the weasel clause, I'm gonna buy this and try to assign it, and if I don't close. You're very upfront with those people, and that to me I think is paramount. Ethics and how you operate your business is all we have is our reputation.
Absolutely.
And we have to honor that, right? Because we're only as good as our last deal, and so.
I realize it's for the people who are in the business full time, it's a very small world. That's something I realize.
Very small.
So having a good reputation and operating ethically is key.
Yeah. It's and those that don't know us for one reason or another. Not us, but don't know the doers because they haven't done enough to meet that inner circle. You know, it is a small world, and I'm happy to be a part of it. But I really appreciate you coming in and
Absolutely.
sitting down and talking to us. And if you were to throw one motivational quote out there to someone that's watching that maybe wants to get started, what but outside of our keep going, what throw a tidbit out there that, like, what is it keep someone motivated?
I think something that I guess I could tell myself when I first got started, being a little discouraged and things like that, to where I'm at today, is truly, like, you just got to be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, starting the business for the first time ever, I thought since I was young, people wouldn't take me serious. You know, people who could be my mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, you know, out here trying to buy your property. And I remember, you know, I would always start every single day I was trying to make real estate happen was I would be wearing like a suit, a blazer, and I'm not a suit and tie type of guy. Like that stuff is too tight on me.
Yeah.
Like I don't like having tight clothing on me.
Those are the reasons we don't do real estate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, truly. And that's a bigger reason is I don't want to have to do it if I was working for somebody else, you know? So one quote I could give is just be yourself and just keep it authentic, you know? I let the business that my company does and our reputation speak for itself, and I feel like that's really all the credibility I need.
Yeah.
I don't have to look like I'm doing X amount of deals per month. Like, as long as you operate, like I said, ethically.
We roll up to deals to buy a house in a minivan, right? So it's not about the image that we give off. It's at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. Like, you just got to be authentic, be yourself. The
Truly.
buyer, the seller sees that. They know that'll get a deal more times than anything.
Well, and there's probably, but you could probably admit to this too, that you've probably bought deals for less money than another person offered because you were authentic. Like, I've
told
been,
that a lot.
Yeah, in my career, there are so many times where people are like, you know, Tony, I'm going to sell it to you because I trust you, right? And that trust comes with authenticity, right? And I think that that's huge. We used to, in sales, you always hear the fake it until you make it thing, and I don't know how many years ago I got kind of corrected on it. Like, and I think it was through a book that I started to read. I don't read, and like I read a couple pages, and I saw this fake it till I make it thing where they were like, no, don't. That's like the wrong way to operate. Like, it's okay to be humble and to have authenticity and not know and then learn.
Right.
But like giving off that arrogant fake it until I make it thing isn't the way to do real estate. Like
It's a
at
mask.
least in real estate, I don't know, in other things, car sales or whatever, appliance sales, Cutco sales, like maybe that's where you can do it, but it never worked for me in real estate, and that's not the
It's
way
like a used car salesman.
Yeah.
I don't like having that mask up. I want to be personal with my clients and my sellers. I want them to know at the end of the day when they sign a contract with us, we're going to buy it. Whether or not I can sell it is a different story. But I made a promise to them or a commitment, and
Exactly.
we're gonna hold true to it. So.
Exactly. And just kind of piggybacking off of that, it's just really a matter of how well you present yourself through the business you do, rather than how you look, what you pull up in, things like that. And I mean, even today, we have a lot of sellers that will sign contracts with us. I mean, they tell us, you know, I have so many people calling me about this, offering more, but, you know, I really like how you guys followed up with me. Personal, you know, y'all are very personable with me, and, you know, I like doing business with people who I like, as to people who I guess could be credible just because they're known in the industry, and being known as far as, like, you know, having, I guess,
a commercial or
Exactly.
right, yeah, like like there is something to be said about advertising and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, homeowners sell to people. So whether that homeowner is listing their house on MLS, they're going with the realtor because they trust them. They're going with the buyer's contract, the buyer's offer. Right, so just Mr. and Mrs. Smith are listing their house with a realtor, and they're accepting this contract because most likely it came over with some sort of emotional attachment, a letter or a phone call to their realtor, and then they trust that realtor, right? So the same thing in our world. people sell to us
Yep.
because they trust us and they want to do business with us and they want to feel like they made the right decision. They need to be able to sleep at night. We need to be able to sleep at night. And so, authenticity is absolutely paramount. It's a great tip for someone just starting, because I remember there were probably days where I was faking it until I made it, and maybe I wasn't that authentic. But I mean, I made it, but still, if I went back, that'd be something I wish I would tell myself too. So.
And it's a great feeling, because it kind of confirms everything you're doing, right? It's like an underlying, that person, they took let's just say it's $5,000 less on an offer.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty much paying you to work with you. They're not taking your offer. They're literally saying, I'm going to waive this $5,000 from another person, and I'm choosing to work with you because I trust you and I like you and I like a relationship. And it's great all around for business. It's successful. It's good for your soul. It's good for positive reinforcement. Turn around and turn that to your team, right?
Yeah.
Oh, guys, let's go. Let's knock it out of the park. So.
Yep. And then once you get the job done, you close on their property. I mean, I feel even 10 times better, because now they see what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the confidence that we bring to them for them to even work with us. I mean, considering, like I said, I don't remember the last time I ever met a seller, because we do everything virtual. With that being said, we have to sound confident and be their best friend over the phone.
Yeah.
That's all about building rapport. This is truly a people business.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming in today,
Absolutely.
man. I
I
really
appreciate y'all's
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and inviting me out. I enjoyed doing this. It's the first time, but I liked it a lot, so I appreciate y'all a lot.
We'll have you back, because again, I really do want to take you. Like, I want to pick your brain. We can have you on here and talk about wholesaling, buying remotely. So,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
thanks for watching, guys. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Follow along for more. If you have any questions for Julian about virtual wholesaling, you want to do a video on that. Drop a comment below, like, subscribe, follow along for more.
And we'll put Julian's info in the comments and all that stuff, so you guys can reach out. But yeah,
Absolutely.
Keep
free
going.
I love giving advice, so feel free to reach out.
What's your contact information that they can get to you?
Yeah, so I'm more active on Instagram. I have a Twitter, but I don't really use it that much. But Instagram, you can follow me, DM me if you have any questions at Julian Cage. That's JulianCaige.
And what's your email? You want to
Email julian@rghousing.com.
Awesome.
Email me, whatever.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank
man.
you very much.
Appreciate
man.
y'all's time.
Have a good one, guys. Keep going.